Hi everyone and welcome to week 9. This is the final week of our third assignment in which you will be finalizing the development of your professional development session, doing a data summary from the material you collected with either your interview or survey or both if you are feeling especially eager to participate in this. I'm excited to see if any of you actually did that, which would be great. And also putting together your infographic. So a week of real creativity and putting together something really meaningful that I hope, if you want, you can actually use and put into action. I think this would actually make a really interesting special topics class, maybe a 6-week course where students could develop or design professional development sessions, try them out in small group settings within the class, and potentially take those to conferences and things. So if anybody's interested in talking more about that, I'd love to hear from you. I like to kick around ideas for skill building labs and special topics courses sometimes. And this assignment in particular, I feel like, I don't know, I hope it's resonated with some of you. It seems like it has, but I'd like to hear from you if that's something that you think would be interesting or would benefit you. But this week, some of the skills we're working on, distilling salient information, that will be specifically with both of the parts of this assignment actually, where you are taking the data you collected and distilling that down, which connects to writing with brevity, right? Taking everything you've collected, deciding what are the most salient pieces, what makes has the most relevancy to this assignment, and also writing with brevity and distilling information with regard to your infographic, right? There's a lot of information out there from the research and from your own experience and knowledge, but what are the main things you want to include in that infographic to guide your PD session, right? And to make it visually engaging, which is the third point. Making an engaging, very highly visual, very educative teaching or training tool with a specific purpose, a specific audience in mind. This is a tall order, right? And I know it is. And I know it's very challenging, but the way you are all rising to the occasion is actually really mind-blowing, I have to say. I'm extremely impressed so far with the way you're thinking. So this week, as you can see here, I'm not introducing any new materials. You already have so many resources from the past 2 weeks for you to tap into. So I ask that you revisit those as needed. But this is an opportunity for you to really reflect on your primary data collection experience and focus on fully developing your PD infographic and then offering peer review on what you've all come up with. I put this graphic here for a specific reason, and it does say teachers, but swap it out with your role, administrator, learning experience designer, counselor. It doesn't really matter what role you're in or what your profession is, it is still fitting. And I'd just like to go through this really quickly for a second, because these are the things I want you to have in mind as you're rounding out your preparation this week. How will you meet these wants? So if you look, let's start down here with number 1. And we won't say teachers, but essentially if you think about it, what do people, let's just say people want a voice and they want choice, right? And that's hopefully what I try to give you each week in this course, not a PD session, but where you get to choose your own tools. I ask for your feedback, right? Same with a PD session. They want voice and a choice. They want relevancy, not just for themselves, but also for their students. If you go to a PD session and it's not relevant to you, that's a waste of your time, right? They want something they can use right away. That way, the second they leave that session, they can automatically put their learnings to work. So what's exciting about that, though, is that you have such an opportunity to reach them where they are right now at this moment in time, and to be immediately impactful in their personal and professional lives. So as you're developing this, think about strategies you might want to offer these folks who are attending your session, strategies that they can employ in their lives right now, and maybe having in that session some interactive, collaborative work, brainstorming ways, okay, this is the information I've presented today. How can you use this right here and now? So keep that in mind. They want their PD conducted by professionals with, and this says classroom experience, but I would just say professionals with experience and knowledge in what they're talking about, what they're presenting a PD on. Now, like, a lot of you might not have personal experience with the PD that you're putting together, but you've done a lot of research and you can continue to do more, right? So I think that's what's exciting about this, is that you are becoming that professional with that experience and with that knowledge to be able to share on these topics. They want the sessions to be innovative and creative, right? Give them something new, make them think outside the box. That makes sense to me. that makes them better, this says teacher, but makes them better at what they do. If you're an administrator, if you work in admissions, whatever it is that you do, make me a better admissions counselor, make me a better professor for you, right? That's important. They want PD that's practical and not theoretical. That makes sense to me, especially in a program like this one and in our EDD program, where we do talk about theory and we do study theory, but we are more about being scholar practitioners, right? And that's why you're here, because you are all educational practitioners, no matter what work you're doing. And so you all are likely working with education practitioners as well. So give them practical experience. You can base it on the theoretical, but really focus on the practical. PD that allows them to collaborate and speak honestly. This is when breakout groups come in. This is when you give them opportunities to take risks with their thinking. When you provide spaces for them to feel safe about sharing their experiences, the struggles that they've had, the successes that they've had, in a judgment-free environment where they feel like that there are people there who can empathize with them and maybe often say, hey, I've been through that myself. Here's some strategies I think, might help you. So being kind, being approachable, friendly, authentic. That's very important. This is interesting because back here, we have number 3, they want PD they can use right away. And here, they want PD that'll be relevant for a long time. So I think that's kind of interesting because you want it to be meaningful now and to be ready to go as they walk out the door. But how can you also balance that with giving them long-term meaning, right? Perhaps things to think about for the future or thinking about immediate strategies and long-term goals, setting those as well. So that's kind of an interesting, tricky money spot to get to in your PD. And lastly, they want their administrators to attend and participate. So for example, think about this in your own environment. If you were to present this PD session, think about your audience. What would be meaningful to your audience if someone else attended? For example, if you were presenting to teachers, do you think it would be more meaningful to those teachers if their principal or the superintendent or their lead faculty or whoever it was attended? I personally do. I know that when our lead faculty or our deans or whoever come to ours, it makes me feel like they're invested in the process of us just being better. And it also tells me that they feel like they are on an equal level playing field with me, that they are educators too. So yes, they might be my boss, but at the same time, they're also here with me, right? We all have the same end goal, and that's to give you the best experience possible, right? So again, not necessarily designed for everyone. Word-wise here, it says teachers, but I really think it applies to all of you. Okay, so for your discussion, I'm going to be very brief on this, but you've already hopefully conducted your interview and/or administered your surveys. And so now that you've done that, or maybe you have to finish up with that a little bit, and that's okay too. But as you can see, I've given you until Friday just to make sure that you have enough time. I want you to post these 5 things in 5 distinct, brief sections. And of course, de-identify and anonymize it using pseudonyms to protect confidentiality and remove any identifying information. But you want to include your interview questions or your survey questions, a brief data summary with no interpretation. Now that's where I'm kind of getting you to dip your toe into the water of data analysis without actually having you do it. Meaning, look at the data you collected from your interview or your survey. What are the most salient, most important pieces that you collected with regard to what this specific PD is going to be on? What is most relevant? So you collected likely a lot of really interesting information, but not all of it is going to be meaningful to or relevant toward your professional development session. So when you do a brief data summary, share the most important aspects that you got from that this person told you or these people told you as it pertains to the topic, which is the PIT that you're talking about. You're not necessarily, when you're doing a data analysis, you're maybe coding or you're looking for themes and categories and subcategories and all that stuff. That's not something you want to be doing now. However, that said, dipping your toe in the water, if you do happen to notice that there are specific themes that your interviewee or your survey participants touch on again and again throughout the course of that interview or data collection exercise. Mention that. I think that's really interesting. That's where the analysis part comes in. So you wouldn't be giving a full-scale interpretation or analysis, but I always think it's interesting if you can, if you happen to identify or see certain themes or certain threads that are running through the information that you collect, that's meaningful. That tells you that this is something that's really, really important. That's kind of where the gold nugget is, right? So yeah, so keep it very succinct. It doesn't even, we're not looking for beautiful prose here, right? It's just a very nuts and bolts summary written technically like an abstract would be, okay? Nothing fancy there. Then I want to know about what you learned from this process. Most interesting or surprising, any insight that you got that you hadn't known or considered before. That's important to me. How will this data add value to your project? That's going to be important because obviously you did this for a reason, right? And when you did your summary, you collected or you summarized the most important salient data to your PIT. But knowing that now, how will it add value? How are you specifically going to use it in your project? And then what was this primary research process like for you? I want to know about any challenges that you faced. Was it interesting? Was it what was most engaging? What was most frustrating? Please be candid with this. There's no right or wrong answers. And I want you to feel safe here sharing any struggles that you had or any successes you had, because that's where we can really learn from each other and be more empathetic with each other and feel good about our individual process, but also the group process that you have all just gone through. In this same post by Friday, I ask you to share a live link to a near final draft of your infographic. When you do that, please note specific areas you want help with or feedback on, and any specific questions that you have if you have them. That way, you are using your classmates' time more efficiently, right? If they want to know the struggles, if you share with them the struggles that you're having, they can be better giving you that feed forward and saying, hey, you know, they're outsiders. You're neck deep in this, so it can be really difficult to have perspective. But from an outside view looking in, I think you'll be surprised how they might be able to answer your questions or you know, give you more targeted, concrete, specific feedback. If you have specific questions for me or you're struggling at any time, in case I don't see it on the DB because there's a lot of posts, please email me or post in the questions forum and I'll get right back to you. By Sunday, you're just going to briefly comment on two things: your classmates' data collection processes. This isn't really a time where you can tell them to do something differently because they've already done it. So, you know, feedback, yes, you might be able to say, you know, in the future, you know, I would recommend asking a question like this or something, but I feel like you kind of already did that. I think this is, you know, last week when you were preparing your interview protocols and your surveys. I think now is a good time to just offer a little bit maybe of empathy with struggles or, you know, sharing similar struggles you had or similar successes. Any insight that you might have, a source that you might have, any tips about how your classmate might use this data, anything you want on that. But for the infographic piece, I want you to use the feedback feed forward technique to offer very specific, incredibly high quality reviews of at least two of your classmates' infographics, addressing specific areas they've asked help with and really looking at their questions and making sure that if you can answer them, please do. If you can't, and you know, if you ask questions and your classmates can't answer them, that's when you want to reach out to me if you really need help, okay? So by Monday, and I give you until Monday night because, again, like with the previous weeks, I want to give you a chance to really take that feedback and feed forward that you got and have at least a day to be able to make any changes that you want to make or make that as good as it possibly can be. You want to submit a single artifact to me. It can be a Word doc. It can be PowerPoint slides. It can be any accessible deliverable of your choice, right? And again, I'm trying to give you choices, kind of like, you know, the PD thing we just talked about. I hope you like it. Let me know if I give you too many. But your single artifact should contain the plan or outline for your PD session. Hopefully you've fleshed that. It doesn't need to be very highly detailed, but based on the process you've gone through the past few weeks, just let me know specifically what you would do with that 2-hour block, a link to your infographic, and then clear, succinct answers to the questions on slide 18. And I've provided a link to the PowerPoint presentation, and so you can find slide 18. And if you look in the folder for this assignment, it's in assignment. If you go to the assignment section, you can find it in there. I've also linked it at the bottom of this module. So if you go in there, I think I have all of the questions there as well. One thing I'm noticing, the last time you all submitted an assignment, sometimes I think students clicked submit before their deliverables had the opportunity to load. So this time, be sure, give it time that your deliverable actually uploads before you click submit. Otherwise, when I open it, I can tell you made a submission, but there's nothing there. So just take an extra second to make sure that happens before you submit. I'm really excited to see what you do with this. If you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Take care. Have a great week.